The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world, including that song that just decided it would resurrect itself here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send us an email, studio@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our website, where you can read what we've been doing, what we are doing, and what we're going to be doing at www.xzonerradio.com. Before I get to my next guest tonight, Dr. Curtis KUHN, I would just like to remind everyone that did you know that when you're on the road with a limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone and every minute of the Mutual Broadcast Network by calling 605-562-4204. And that's with the courtesy of Starstream Live. Now, no smartphone app or internet is needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Once again, all you need to do is call 605-562-4204 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. And that's from our friends at TalkStream Live. My guest this hour is Dr. Curtis KUHN. We had the pleasure of having the good doctor on the show, about a year ago. A great guest, great topic. And Dr. Curtis, welcome back to the X-Zone, sir.
Yes, thanks so much, Rob. I always enjoy your shows.
Thank you, sir. I was wondering, Doctor, if you could tell our audience, because we're on two new networks since you and I last talked, reaching far more areas of the world, if you could tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm a doctor of metabolism therapy, a science developed and discovered by Dr. William Donald Kelley back in the 60s, when he had metastasized liver and pancreatic cancer back in 1963. And he was an orthodontist and a biochemist, and he was doing a lot of work with nutrition for several years before he was diagnosed. And of course, he started applying his research to himself, and he incorporated pancreatic enzymes to break down malignancy, and then he started discovering the differences between people and metabolic typing, based on the autonomic nervous system. So his research is of course throughout the world. You can just Google Dr. Kelley and always find tons of information about him. Well, I had a varied background. Of course, I was in the Marine Corps during Vietnam in the early 70s. Was a military policeman, guarded nuclear weapons a few years, and started having health problems in 1974. And they evolved over the years. I got out of the Marine Corps, started going to college, was in communications major then, and then psychology, then pre-med, because I was trying to find answers to my own health problems, and kept looking, and almost went to medical school. I graduated actually midterm 1981 from Marymount College in Salina, Kansas. And I'll never forget, this is in my book, my third book that I just finished, just self-published, but I was in my upper-level anatomy and physiology class, second semester that I'd been in there, and I was graduating in about a month, and I was going to graduate December 81. And Dr. Zekas walked in the classroom that day. I'll never forget it. He said, "Class, I have good news I have bad news. The good news is we're skipping over the chapter metabolism. And he said the bad news is we don't study this in medical school. So after class, I said, Dr. Zekas, I'm considering medical school next year. I'm trying to find answers to my health problems. I had diabetes. I had polycythemia. I had to give whole blood every 3 months to the Red Cross. Too many red blood cells, so forth. So he said, Curtis, you need to keep looking. So I did, and I spent the next few years looking, and I didn't go to any more universities. And then I discovered Dr. Kelley's work in 1984. He saved my life. Went back to school, and the rest is kind of history. You know, it's been 30 years now.
God bless. Dr. Curtis, please stand by. You and I have to take our first break. Exonation, Dr. Curtis KUHN is our special guest. www.themetabolicinstitute.com. Don't go away. We'll be back after this break. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited.
They do not give up until you pay.
They put a lien on my house.
How about you? Do you owe back taxes? Call Tax Solutions now and get some help. For a limited time, the IRS offers a tax forgiveness program called the Fresh Start Initiative. Our team can make it easier for you to pay back taxes, avoid tax liens, and get a fresh start. Sometimes you just need a second chance.
I call Tax Solutions now, and they got the IRS off my back.
At Tax Solutions Now, our affiliates are all accredited by the Better Business Bureau and members of the National Association of Tax Professionals.
We saved our home and overcame the most powerful collection agency in the world.
Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now. Call 800-729-3321. 800-729-3321. 800-729-3321. 800-729-3321.
Anatomy and physiology class. So that's when I decided not to go to medical school. And Dr. Zekas told me to keep looking. And I said, I've already been to 3 universities, so what do I need to do? Go to Harvard, Notre Dame? What? And he goes, no, Curtis, you're not going to discover how to rebuild the body there. You need to look elsewhere. And so I did. I kept looking. And in December of 84, I was in a small health food store in Arkansas City, Kansas. And the lady that ran the health food store went to grade school with Dr. Kelley. And I was reading his book, Metabolic Ecology, his second book. And she said, you need to read that book. And I said, why is that? She said, because I went to grade school with that man, and he's a genius. I go, really? And she said, yeah, he heals cancer clients all over the world. I go, really? So I read his book. At the time, I was married. My wife was a nurse. She worked in oncology for 3 years at Wesley Hospital in Wichita, Kansas. And so she said, you need to do this therapy. I said, well, it's kind of a no-brainer. I've been sick for 10 years. So I did Dr. Kelley's questionnaire, which back then was 3,200 questions. It took like 20 hours to fill out. It wore me out. But I did a blood test with a SMAC 20. And the next day I got a letter back from the hospital, Winfield Hospital, and they said, see your physician immediately. You have liver dysfunction and malignancy. I'm like, oh, no. I'd been pretty sick the last few years, but I didn't expect that. So I called Dr. Kelley because I was getting ready to go to his next symposium in about a month. He said, Curtis, take the ultrazyme test, which is an enzyme test to determine if you do have malignancy. Well, I took that test for a month, and sure enough, I got very sick. And so it just kind of confirmed everything. So I went ahead and got on his metabolic program in February 1985, which They determined my metabolic type based on my autonomic nervous system. I was very sick. He told me I was too sick to have cancer, if you can believe that. And I didn't understand that. He says, well, Curtis, yeah, you have malignancy, but you have worse problems. I go, what's worse than liver cancer? He said, well, you have about 50 to 70 trillion cells, and each one is like a miniature trash can. And your trash is overflowing. I thought about that for a moment. I said, I go to the gym, I work out, and I don't sweat. I have no oil in my skin. He goes, of course, your liver's backed up. It's dysfunctional. You probably have tremendous gallstones, and your digestive system is backed up. Your hydrochloric acid is backed up. I had ulcers, and your lymphatic system is backed up. I go, oh, my gosh. And so I started this therapy, the supplements with the meals, the right foods, and, of course, detoxification to cleanse the liver, the blood, the kidneys, lymphatic system. And, wow, the first year I went through incredible changes. And it took me a long time. The first almost 3 years, I was pretty sick. But the third and fourth year, not only did I rebuild all my internal organs, but I actually put on 50 pounds of bone and muscle. In 88 and 89, my bodybuilder friends I'd run into them, and they go, wow, you're doing steroids. I go, I didn't work out. Why would I do steroids? I go, man, your bones are bigger. Well, I broke my neck when I was 17 in high school, my senior year of high school in 72. I fell off the high bar gymnastics on my head. I compressed my spine, had a hairline fracture to my C1, and I had pituitary gland dysfunction. So I wasn't emitting human growth hormone. So at age 33 and 34, my human growth hormone kicked in from the supplements, and I put on all that inch in height and 50 pounds of bone and muscle. I've been a bodybuilder since the Marine Corps, and it wasn't anything miraculous. It was just my body rebuilding. But I like to make a statement about that human growth hormone. We do not take that. We just take glandulars to rebuild the organs and glands and systems, along with vitamins, minerals, enzymes. And so it started working on its own. These companies that make human growth hormone separately, I don't agree to that. But, it seems to be a big seller.
You have certainly had more than your share of ill health.
Yeah, for sure. I'll agree to that.
And how did you find the stamina within yourself to just keep on going?
That's a good question, Rob. But the bottom line is, I say today, because I'll be 62 here in a couple months, I was in the Marine Corps. Their motto, lead, follow, or get out of the way, man. I live my life and I got to tell you, Rob, even since I was on your last show, I had a group of investors that just took on as partners, and then we canceled because I got a doctor in New York that's my partner now. That's a great guy. But they challenged me to start working out because I joined the gym last year. They said, oh, you need to start bodybuilding. I said, I don't know. Well, I did. And my gosh, I'm having better workouts today at almost 62 than I did 40 years ago in the Marine Corps. If that tells you anything, the validity of the power of nutrition and supplementation and detoxification, it's there. It's there.
So let me ask you something, sir. How would you describe metabolic science to our listeners?
Well, it's a science really based on the autonomic nervous system. Dr. Kelley developed a questionnaire, of course, almost 50 years ago. But it was the original questionnaire was 3,200 questions. It was massive. And over the next 25 years, he reduced it down to about 400 questions, which we use today. And it takes 3 or 4 hours to fill it out. But once you're done, your functional metabolic type, and then your subtype. And we address the subtype. And it's a very accurate questionnaire. It's a psychophysiometric test. And when I was in undergraduate school, that was my forte, was psychometric testing. I used to test all my friends with the MMPI, the Myers-Briggs, introvert-extrovert test, IQ test. I love all that stuff. So that's one of the things that attracted me to his program in the beginning, back in 84, right when I got on the program, those the tests. It was massive, but it was good. It's still very good. It's very. Of course, Americans today, 400 questions is like, oh my gosh, do I have to fill all those out? We're a fast food society. So, but if you need to address your health overall, you got to take a little time. A lot of my clients, the last 5 or 6 years, I've gotten a lot of baby boomers that have 3rd and 4th stage cancer, and they come to me, and I Like, well, how old are you? Well, I'm 70. Well, it took 70 years to get there. It's not going to take a couple of weeks to rebuild. You're going to have to take a little time here, And they realize that. So, it's really logic. Our whole protocol is very logical. Very logical.
Based on your experience and your expertise, what is the number one cause of cancer?
Well, as Dr. Kelley confirmed over his lifetime, and Dr. John Beard confirmed way back in 1906 with his 20 years of research, and of course Dr. Gonzalez with his research in New York, who sadly passed away last July, it's a pancreatic enzyme deficiency combined with a very slight hormone imbalance. And that research was confirmed in 1906 with Dr. John Beard's research, and it was kind of swept under the carpet for 100 years, and it's finally coming back to fruition here, and it's interesting how it's making its way back. But in today's world, Rob, there's so many alternatives now. I had the luxury of 1984 that I didn't have to worry about any other alternative therapies. There were none hardly. So when I found Dr. Kelley, it was a piece of cake. I mean, it was a one-way street there. It was easy. But now people, by the time they call me, they've already talked to 10 different companies, with different alternatives. Like, oh, yeah, we can do this, we can do that. Wow. I'm like, it's a little overwhelming for people. I feel sorry for people. They're just lost sometimes. Metabolic therapy creates an incredible foundation, but each individual is different. Biochemical individuality is the premise of metabolic typing. You can have identical twins with the same type of cancer, and they still will react differently to different protocols, So, of course, that really gives us kind of a little bit of insight into the power of God and what He's done with people, in creating mankind. We still have our differences, which is an incredible thing. It really is. So.
Do you think that Big Pharma will try its best to push any other cancer cures away that are out there, because they're going to lose a lot of money?
Well, the powers that be, I believe that's true. I mean, Dr. Kelley dealt with that his entire life, and kind of a sad affair. It's sad that the bottom line is money in all businesses, and
it's true.
The health industry is no different, And I get kind of mad sometimes because 31 years ago when I started this therapy, I could go to a health food store and get a bottle of flax or flaxseed or psyllium husk, just fiber for a couple of bucks. Today it's $15. I'm like, wow, man, there's a price tag on everything. I know you know this. I shared this on my last show I was on with you, but I give all my supplements at wholesale.
Yeah.
I've been there for 20 years. 20 years. I don't make a nickel on supplements. And, of course, people say, well, how do you do that? I go, well, I'm still eating. I don't look like I'm starving. So, it's working. It's just something I do. Dr. Kelley passed that on to me, and it's my way of giving back, kind of, too. And of course, I'm getting ready to take on a couple more partners, and they're like, well, can't we make money on supplements? I'm like, well, yeah, we might make some changes, but wow, it's, for instance, Rob, when I started this therapy, it was $350 for that questionnaire way back in 1984 when I filled it out, and I went in February 85 is when I started down in Dallas. $250. My first order of supplements in 1985 was $750. That was a lot of money back then.
It's a lot of money these days, too.
Yeah. And to be equivalent to that today, oh my gosh, we'd have to. It would be at least double that or triple that, And yet, I give supplements at wholesale, which is 40% off on everything, just about. And then the enzymes I give, which is my wholesale, is 20% off. I don't get 40.
Dr. Curtis,
I passed it on.
Dr. Curtis, please stand by. We've got to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Dr. Curtis Kuhn is our special guest. The metabolicinstitute.com is the website. And the good doctor and I will return on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Mutual Broadcast Network and on the all-new IPBN Radio Network.
Mutual Broadcast News, I'm Leo Ashcraft. Indiana child welfare officials have warned an organization that installed 2 baby boxes at firehouses where mothers can drop off unwanted newborns anonymously to remove them, saying they question their safety and whether women who use them could face child abandonment charges. 6 hospitals in Arizona have installed drawers in their emergency rooms that allow women to drop off infants anonymously, although state law neither authorizes nor prohibits them. Nearly 2 months after a woman was found severely burned on the Crow Indian Reservation, the tribe is still seeking information about the case from federal investigators. The victim was found on April 17th in a field near the border between the Northern Cheyenne and Crow Reservation with burns over most of her body. Doctors told the woman's family she had walked about 3 miles before collapsing. Reservation residents believe the woman was set on fire. Mutual Broadcast News. Depend on it.
If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com. Back in Victorian England, a famous theologian posed a perplexing riddle. Why are the 2 top personalities in the Bible tagged with the numbers 7 and 11? Academics agree the answer is found in the stunning discovery of a hitherto secret Bible structure explained in a new book called The Genesis Grid. The discovery is so simple that preschool children could illustrate it. Certain claims are hugely controversial and may offend some, but at the X Zone, we've studied this awesome new book and agree with one expert, and I quote, "These discoveries appear to be beyond coincidence." So who or what hid this wonderful pattern in the Bible, and what might they do next? Find out more, X Zone Nation, and read reviews on www.genesisgrid.co.uk. That's www.genesisgrid.co.uk. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships. Not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute, paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598.
Did you ever look at the stains in your coffee cup and then realize that's exactly what happens to your teeth? Paraswabs is the 5-minute solution to get your teeth white without visiting the dentist. This is John Greenhut, the CEO of Paraswabs. And if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, all it takes is 5 minutes with Paraswabs. In 5 minutes, you'll see an average of 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. It's clinically proven to whiten natural teeth as well as caps and veneers. The secret is a tooth detergent that lifts stains off of your teeth. Best of all, there's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you're done. To try Paraswabs risk-free, call 1-800-906-0783. That's 1-800-906-0783. I guarantee your bright white smile will have your friends, family, and coworkers talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free today. 1-800-906-0783. That's 1-800-906-0783.
Dr. Curtis KUHN is our special guest this hour, Exonation, www.themetabolicInstitute.com. Dr. KUHN, I was wondering if you could share with us some of the most extreme cases that you've experienced over the past 30 years.
I've had a few. I'll share a couple from my book, probably. I'll share one with, I'll share two. Don was one of my best friends, from junior high school and high school. And he helped me finance my first book back in 89 when I self-published. He lived up in Salem, Oregon. And this man was, he had been in the Navy towards the end of Vietnam and a little bit after. He got out after I did. I got out in 75. He got out in like 78. He was on an aircraft carrier, and he was a painter, and he had a lot of problems from the lead-based paint, But he was 6'4". When the last time I saw him, in the 70s, he was 275, all muscle.
Wow.
Well, then I ran into him in 88, and he was 425 pounds. He put on a few pounds. I didn't recognize him. But anyways, he helped me finance my book. We got to become friends again. And I got him on a program in 90. And, wow, it was pretty incredible, the changes he went through. But he lost 150 pounds the first 6 months. And he did it he was eating and taking supplements. When he started, he said, Curtis, I eat one meal a day and I gain weight. And I got him on 3 meals a day and he lost weight. But he ate the right foods, took his supplements, and did his detox. The first time he did his detox, of course, it's coffee enema, which is pretty well known now. It's been around hundreds of years. But the first time he did it, he didn't want to do it, of course. And then once he did it, he called me up and said, Curtis, I haven't had mental clarity like this in 10 years. So it was pretty amazing.
So you mean all these years I've been putting the coffee in the wrong end of myself?
Yeah, well, it's, to drink it too works on your physiology differently, Okay. But yes, coffee enemas are a kind of a staple for metabolic therapy. And I'm getting clients from around the world now that by the time they reach me, they've already been doing coffee enemas. They've heard about it, But the coffee, when it's in the colon, it immediately, there's a portal vein that runs via the descending colon directly to the liver and gallbladder. It's the size of an artery. It's a big vein, the portal vein. And the moment that caffeine's in the colon, it stimulates the gallbladder and the liver to start dumping metabolic debris that's accumulated. Well, all the blood in the body accumulates, goes through the liver every 2.5 minutes. So the blood that's flowing through is signaled also to dump microscopic metabolic debris into the liver, and then the small intestine, then the large, you pass it out. So it's a very systematic cleansing protocol. I'll tell you, when I started this program in 85, when I was in Dallas with Dr. Kelley for 3 days, and, we had 30 cancer patients there. Everybody had cancer, and he took every individual in front of that class over 3 days and went over their specific program. And I was sitting there with my wife, and Dr. Gonzalez was there, and Dr. Kelley. And I said, I don't know if I can take all these supplements. And he just laughed. He goes, oh, you're going to have to. I said, I'll be a fat man in a circus in 6 months. I said, 140 supplements a day? He said, Curtis, you're going to lose probably another 10 pounds the first year. And I did. I was down to like 140 pounds a year into the therapy. And then I said, well, I don't think I can do that. Coffee enema, my God. I looked at my wife, and she was a nurse. She goes, oh, that's no big deal. And he laughed. And he said, Curtis, those that hate it the most love it the best. And he was right. And, he said, you can take all the supplements in the world and rebuild, but if you can't detoxify your body, you're going to die anyways. I'm like, whoa, that's quite a dramatic statement, And it's true. Dynamic equilibrium, homeostasis, that balance for your physiology is so incredibly important. And the acid-alkaline balance. So that's a big thing now. Acidosis or alkalosis. I talked to a chemist back in the 80s, and he laughed and said, you can't change the body chemistry, the pH. That man was a fool. Today we know that you can, and we've known that for 40 years. But it's funny how science, goes through these changes all the time. I never cease to be amazed. I just never do. Oh my gosh. But I'll share one more incident, and this was Greg. Now, Greg, when he came to me, this is in 90, he had jaundice. He has complete jaundice. His body was yellow. His liver was dysfunctioning. He'd been alcoholic. He was 30. been an alcoholic for 10 years. His doctor said, go home and die. You have 2 months to live. I got him on a program. The first week, I had to spend a day with him at his house, because he called me, and I think he was about ready to throw in the towel, and I knew the warning signs. I only lived a couple miles from him here in Wichita, Kansas. I spent the day. We made rice and lentils and Beeler's broth and carrot juice, and he was a sympathetic dominant. He was a vegetarian anyways, and that jump-started his psyche also. I didn't see him for about 9 months, and I was in Branson, Missouri performing. I sing also professionally.
Yep.
And I come back, I saw him at the health food store one day in Wichita. I didn't recognize him. He put on like 15 pounds. He was grinning ear to ear, and he was always depressed when I first started working with him. I said, Greg, what, man, you look fantastic. It was Kurt, I'm doing great. So we went in the store, and he said, let's go have, let's go to a restaurant or something and talk. So we did, and it was a bar, and he ordered a pitcher of beer. Now, he hadn't had a drink in almost a year. Well, he ordered this beer, and he started drinking. He was all excited, And I had a beer with him, and I don't drink much. I had to get kind of rid of that years ago. I mean, I almost bit the bullet for my liver dysfunction. So, but, he was drinking, he had 4 or 5 beers, and I had a couple. And I said, Greg, that's enough, man. I need to go. I've got another meeting. So I took him home, and on the way home, he was talking 100 miles an hour. All of a sudden, he almost shifted completely into alkalosis, and he slowed down in his speech. And I looked over and said, Greg, you all right? And he said, I don't know, Kurt. All of a sudden, he started to sneeze, Rob, and I believe that man sneezed 60 or 70 times. I'd never seen that in my life, but his liver was seizing up from all that alcohol, see?
So what does the sneezing have to do with the liver?
The sneezing? Oh, it's the first indication that if you eat food and you sneeze or hiccup,
right.
That's the first indication that you can't catabolize whatever you just ingested.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he sneezed about 70 times, so I stopped in front of his apartment, got a towel out, and he was like, Kurt, can you tell me what to do? And I said, Greg, go brew your coffee, do your detox, put whatever bitters or other herbs in it to get it immediately into your bloodstream and cleanse that liver. And he did. He called me the next day. He was back to normal. I never witnessed anything quite like that in my life. Now, I've worked with a lot of cancer clients. I could share some stories, but I know we only have so much time. And there's some dramatic stories there, too, but I'd probably have to take a little more time for that, Rob. Rob, I'd like to mention one thing also. Your secretary, when she sent me that questionnaire, for this show, it asked me if I had any psychic abilities or any experiences.
Yep.
And I wanted to share one thing. The third year on the program, second and third year, because my nervous system was shot, and when my nervous system rebuilt, my sixth sense started to kick in. And, oh, my gosh, I knew when the phone's going to ring, who's going to call. My friends they used to call me and ask me questions. Curtis, what are your vibes today? I don't know. It's kind of weird. But, wow, I'll never forget, I put an ad in the newspaper right before I moved to Vegas in '94, and I was looking for a little money, for my business. And I had a dream that night. And I was in the woods, and I went in this old abandoned house, and I ran into a kid I went to grade school with. His name was Tom Vanneman. I'll never forget the dream. Now, Tom wasn't an unusual kid, but he's the only kid I ever knew that had he stuttered, He always stuttered, and it stuck out in my mind. I always tried to help him finish his sentences. Well, I woke up laughing. I was at my nephew's. He goes, what are you laughing about? I said, I had a funny dream about a friend from grade school. Well, the guy called that day, and I was gone, and he left a message with my nephew. I came home, I called him back, and we started talking, and you wouldn't believe it, but he started stuttering, just like Tom Vanneman in my dream. I'm like, and I told him about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, just like premonition. That was kind of strange. And I've had so many experiences like that way back. And it was the first few years on the therapy. But I think it was just so sick that when my body started coming back, it's just amazing the changes I went through for sure.
Unreal. Like you have lived about 20 lives in one life.
Well, and Rob, I'll be 62 in September, and my work's just beginning. I got to live to be 100 so I can help the planet.
Knowing you, you'll succeed.
Well, I don't know. But, I want to tell you, I'm premiering a show. I sang in Vegas several years ago. I was in the show. I got my voice back when I rebuilt my body. Because, I used to kind of talk like this because I couldn't assimilate calcium. And I had a hormone imbalance, Oh, my gosh, my friends used to make fun of me. But I've been working on a show I call Lecture Theater since 92. I came up with the idea when I was in Branson. And I'm almost done. It's a widescreen slide presentation, about 300 slides, 6 songs, 2 of them original on my 12-string, 4 pop songs, and slides telling my story of overcoming all these problems I had and sharing the science of Dr. Kelley's work, and a couple of my clients, of course, too.
Well, you are the epitome of my favorite saying, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And you, my friend, are part of that solution.
Well, thank you so much. I love to do your show, and I'm getting ready for actually to pay my agent to start booking me on shows, about 3 a week. So I've been so poor for 30 years, so we're actually making a little money.
Good
now.
for you.
It's incredible.
Good for you. Listen, in today's society, stress is everywhere. How how does the stress that each and every one of us face attack or work against our metabolic system?
Oh, my gosh. Well, not only from stress from work and traffic and the environment, but ecologically, the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, nitrates, nitrites, now genetically modified foods, the water, oh, my gosh. That's why metabolic therapy is really the therapy of the future. And I saw that 30 years ago. And I told Dr. Kelley that. I said, Dr. Kelley, it might take 10, 20, 30 years, but people are going to start to understand what we're doing. And they are. I knew exactly what the writing was on the wall way back then because I was so sick. I was only 30 years old when I started. I've been sick since I was like 14. And I thought, man, if you can rebuild this body, you can rebuild anybody. And that's why we give you the tools so your nervous system strengthens, the autonomic and the central nervous system, and then all your organs and glands. I'm bodybuilding again. I never dreamed. It's funny. I was going to take Arnold Schwarzenegger's title back in the 70s, but I could have never done it because I was so sick. That was my dream. Then I rebuilt my body, and I didn't want to do that anymore. I was using my brain for everything. I was excited because my brain works so well. But, I'm working out again. I have a happy balance here, but I'm building muscle I never dreamed about 40 years ago. So it's kind of fun. I go to the gym and watch these kids in their 20s. I'm like, hey, you better pick up the pace there, boys. You're never going to it's funny. I guess I'm a senior citizen now, so I speak my mind.
Here you are. You're constantly reinventing yourself and setting goals for yourself. And, I've always said the difference between a dream and reality is just making it happen, putting in the work, putting in the time, putting in the effort.
Oh, you're so right. I love Lou Holtz. Some of the things he says are so profound.
Yep.
My most favorite of Lou Holtz is you can have anything in this life that you want if you're willing to pay the price.
That's right.
And that's it. That's it. And so when I wake up every morning, I'm like, oh, dear God, I'm alive again. I'm going to get up, and I'm thankful. And, I prayed for death a year into the therapy. I passed those gallstones the size of golf balls. And I was in septic shock for a week, and I prayed for death. And I came out of that about 48 hours later, and I actually had an appetite, and that's when I prayed for life. And I said, Lord, being a typical Christian, I guess, I said, give me 2 things. I want my voice back, because I'd always struggled with that. I was in radio and broadcasting, back in the 70s. And I said, I want my body back. I was down to 140 pounds.
Wow.
And it came back. It took me a few years, but they both came back. And then my friends would always hold me to it. Oh, Curtis, now you got your body back in your voice. You better use it. I'm like, I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it.
So when you look at the entire past, your life, how important is one's religious beliefs, one's belief in the, you're Christian, so your belief in God and in Jesus, how did that help you?
Well, I was a Christian before I started Dr. Kelley's therapy. I accepted Christ when I got out of the Marine Corps, actually, in the winter of 75 in the late fall. But you know what? After I almost died that week, a year into the therapy, that's when I really recommitted. And that's when I made a commitment to Dr. Kelley. I called him. I said, you know, I just finished this school for a year also. I said, you know, Dr. Kelley, maybe this is premature, but I feel that I'm going to share this knowledge with the world someday. And he laughed a little bit. He said, Curtis, I need more people like you. But I feel like even though, you know, and I had rough times. I lived in Las Vegas 17 years. I worked construction for minimum wage, $5.25 an hour. I lived in my car for a year. But you know what? I'm not crying about that. It makes for good reading in my book. I borrowed money from the mob in 95, you know, 5% a week, $350 a week interest. But I lived through it. So I'm thankful. I feel like I've always had an angel on my shoulder in everything that I've done. So, and I made a lot of mistakes, you know.
But you see,
a couple of them I just
but you see, what you just said, you've made a lot of mistakes. And so many people think that when they make a mistake, it's a failure. When you make a mistake, or if you fail, that is a step towards success. It's a learning lesson.
Oh, amen.
Yeah.
So true. So true. You know, and I look back now, and I have gained some wisdom, definitely in 62 years. Yeah. I look back at myself 25 years ago. I'm like, Curtis, what were you thinking, man? I have to laugh. I'm like, God, you were just stupid. But I was younger, you know, and I got to tell you, Rob, that first decade on metabolic therapy, when I got my strength back, I thought I was going to live forever, you know. And that was a big mistake, too, thinking that. But I just felt like King Kong, you know, for several years. And then I went to Vegas and kind of got knocked down a few pegs, you know, which was just life. Yeah. But, yeah, you know, and I was a private investigator 7 years in Vegas, so I enjoyed that. I mean, it was fun. I love seeking the truth. You know, my boss always told me, I asked him one day, I said, Jimmy, what's the bottom line? He goes, Curtis, 3 words. Tell the truth. Document the truth. You'll never go wrong.
Curtis,
he was right.
Dr. Curtis, please stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation. Dr. Curtis KUHN is our special guest. A great gentleman, making a difference in the lives of so many. Sharing his wisdom, sharing his knowledge. God, I admire people like you, Curtis.
Oh, well, thank you, Rob. When I got that award from Governor Finney in 91.
Let's talk about that when we come back from this break. Take care.
Sure,
all right, we'll be back on the other side as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Manifestation is driven by imagination, intent, and passion. In our culture, all three have been distorted and disabled by modern media and exploitation. Re-engage your imagination and your passion by entering into the world of paranormal romance. Kahir O'Donnell takes her readers on an exciting journey into the endless possibilities of loving, passionate, and mutually respectful male-female relationship. Her latest book, The Long Dark Night, features special ops adventure, a daring rescue, a psychic woman from the stars, and a special agent that will die to protect her. The Long Dark Night by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or Amazon.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls? Start saving thousands in interest and fees and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-824-9875. 800-824-9875. That's 800-824-9875. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Dr. Curtis KUHN is our special guest. He is the gentleman behind the Metabolic Institute. Their website is www.themetabolicInstitute.com. First of all, Curtis, thank you so much for coming back on the show. You are an inspiration, my friend. Like I said, the fact that you're helping people solve problems, making this a better world, my hat is off to you. So what are your final thoughts tonight that you would like to share with the worldwide audience of the X-Zone Nation?
Well, my gosh, I've been watching this political forum, and oh my golly, we need to regroup in America, especially. Wow.
Did you say political forum? I look at it as a political circus.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's so well spoken, and it's true. My hat's off to Donald Trump. He speaks the truth,
exactly.
And he can't be bought. And that's cool.
And
that's a good thing.
And what he's done, in my opinion, since I'm on the northern side of the 49th parallel, is that he has shown every American, no matter color, creed, philosophy, whatever, that you can use the system to make the system work. That you don't have to be a political pundit in Washington. You don't have to come from a long lineage of political families like the Bushes in order to get to where you can actually be president of the United States.
Yeah, that's so true. And I don't know. I feel that some of the things he talks about brings me back to me growing up on a farm with my grandparents back in the 50s here in Kansas. I don't know. It just seems right. And I know he speaks kind of quickly sometimes. Maybe he's like John Wayne. He pulls the trigger kind of quickly. But he's really. I watched him the other day, and he's really fine-tuned his presentation. It's good. So I don't know what the future holds. I just know that I'm going to keep doing my work. I know in my grave it'll say he did it till the end. That's for sure. I promised Dr. Kelley 30 years ago I would, and it's kind of interesting. I'm teaching doctors around the world, the last 5+ years, and here in America, and I'm getting a lot of MDs now and chiropractors and nurses that I'm teaching in my class. I'm seeing a shift, a paradigm shift in these doctors that are really wanting to know the truth about what we've been doing for 50 years. So it's kind of exciting. I never believed I'd live to see 62, let alone even 40. It's so sick.
But the world is changing so fast. Look what happened overnight in the United Kingdom, with the United Kingdom pulling out of the European Union. The immediate effect of that decision. I love it when that happens. It scares the hell out of me each and every time. But, the world is changing, Dr. Curtis, and I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. Keep the great work up, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet back here in the X.
Yes, thanks so much, Rob. I appreciate it.
Take care, Doctor.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye, X-Zone Nation. Dr. Curtis KUHN has been our special guest this hour. www.themetabolicInstitute.com. Well, now that my blood pressure is getting back to normal after being scared the hell of with that bumper, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You see how synchronicity and timing works? That happened while the doctor was in the house. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.